Go look in your bathroom cabinet right now. Behind the aspirin, behind the old cough syrup, there is a little brown bottle you have probably had for years. Hydrogen peroxide. $3, maybe 4. It is the one you dabbed on a skinned knee when you were a kid and watched it fizz and bubble white. You think of it as first aid and nothing more. A cut, a scrape, and back on the shelf it goes. Here is what almost nobody bothers to tell you. That same little brown bottle is one of the most useful things you can pour down a drain. I have been on the tools for 30 years, and I keep one under every sink in my own house. Not the fancy stuff, not some special formula. The plain 3% bottle off the drugstore shelf, same as yours. Now, here is the part that ought to bother you a little. There is a whole aisle at the hardware store full of drain products that cost $5 and $6 a jug, and there are plumbers who will happily charge you $150 just to knock on your door. And this brown bottle, already sitting in your cabinet, does a lot of what those things do, for a fraction of the price, and without the harm they can do to your pipes. My Uncle Ray used to say the best tools in this trade are the cheap ones nobody respects. He was right about most things, and he was right about that. So today, I am going to walk you through 9 ways to put hydrogen peroxide to work on your drains and your fixtures. Some of these you can do tonight before bed. Number 6 is one most folks never even think to check, and number 9 is the one that keeps you safe. So do not go clicking away early on me. Let us start easy. Number 1. The nightly deodorizer. This is the simplest one on the whole list, so it is a fine place to start. You know that faint, sour smell that drifts up out of the kitchen sink when the house has gone quiet at night. Most people spray something on the counter and figure they handled it, but the smell was never on the counter. It is coming up out of the drain. Here is what I do, and it takes about 10 seconds. Before I turn in for the night, I pour roughly half a cup of the 3% peroxide straight down the drain. That is it. No mixing, no measuring cup, just a slow, steady pour, so it coats the walls on the way down. Then I leave it be until morning. While you are asleep, that peroxide is doing quiet work. It breaks down the film clinging to the inside of the drain, the stuff your eye never sees, and it releases oxygen as it goes. And here is the thing that matters. The bacteria making that odor, they hate oxygen. They set up shop in the dark, wet, closed-off parts of your plumbing precisely because it runs low on oxygen down there. Peroxide changes that for a few hours, and the smell goes with it. Do this 2 or 3 nights a week on a drain that tends to turn, and you will notice the difference inside a week. Ask me how I know. I had a kitchen sink in my first house that greeted me every single morning with a smell like something crawled off to die. I thought I needed a plumber. A little brown bottle fixed it for pennies. You keep that one in your back pocket. Number 2, the baking soda and peroxide foam. Once you have got the plain deodorizing down, this is your next step up. A simple pour is good for smell. But when a drain starts running a little slow, when the water lingers in the bowl a second longer than it used to, you want something with more muscle behind it. So here is the trick. Sprinkle about a half cup of plain baking soda down the drain first. Dry, straight from the box. Then slowly pour in about a cup of your 3% peroxide right on top of it. And then you step back a moment, because it is going to foam. Not a scary foam, nothing dangerous, just a busy, fizzing, working foam that climbs up the sides of the pipe. That foam is the entire point. The baking soda scrubs, gentle and a little gritty. The peroxide oxidizes and lifts. Together they get up under the greasy film on the pipe wall that a plain splash of water just slides right past without touching. Let that foam sit and do its business for about 30 minutes. Then chase it down with a kettle of hot water. Hot from the tap is plenty. You do not need it boiling. Between you and me, this is the exact thing those pricey foaming drain packets are selling you at the store. Only you already own both halves of it. 1 box of baking soda, 1 brown bottle. It costs you pennies a use, and it works just as well. Now, a word of caution I am going to circle back to. Baking soda and peroxide together, that pairing is just fine. There is another common pairing that is not, and I will tell you all about it when we get to number 9. Hold that thought for me. Number 3. Clearing an early hair clog before it turns to concrete. This one is for the bathroom sink and the shower, and it might just spare you the nastiest job in the whole house. Because here is the truth about a hair clog nobody explains. It does not happen all at once. It builds, slow and quiet. A few strands catch on the crossbars down in the drain, then soap scum grabs onto the hair, then more hair grabs onto that, and over a few months you have got a dense, greasy, matted plug sitting right there in the pipe. Catch it early and peroxide can help you. Pour a full cup of the 3% down the drain and let it sit a good hour, longer if you can spare it. What it does is break down the soap and the skin oil, the glue that holds a young hair clog together. It will not dissolve the hair itself, and I want to be straight with you about that. Nothing you pour down a drain melts hair, no matter what the label on the jug promises you. But peroxide loosens the binder so that when you go in after it, the whole mess lets go a whole lot easier. And that follow-up is where it counts. After the peroxide has had its hour, take a cheap plastic drain zip tool, that little barbed strip you can buy for $1 or $2. Run it down and pull. On an early clog softened with peroxide first, that gunk comes up in one satisfying piece. Ask me how I know. I have pulled things out of a bathroom drain that I still think about at odd moments. Do this the day your sink first starts draining slow, not 6 months down the road, and you will never once meet the version of that clog that needs a plumber and a bad afternoon. Real quick, if these little fixes are the kind of thing you want more of, subscribe to the Vintage Pipefitter. Every week I walk you through one more repair you can do yourself, the honest way, without paying somebody to do what you can handle in 10 minutes. It is free, it takes one tap, and it keeps these walkthroughs coming when your sink acts up. Back to it. Number 4. Killing the biofilm that is actually behind the smell. Now we get to something the drain cleaner ads never explain. When your sink comes back smelling a day after you already cleaned it, you are not fighting dirt. You are fighting biofilm. Biofilm is a living layer, a slick, slimy coating that bacteria build for themselves along the inside of your pipe, like a fortress wall. You have felt it before. That slippery pink or gray slime on the underside of a sink stopper, that is biofilm. And here is why it beats most cleaners you throw at it. The film protects the bacteria living under it. You can pour a splash of soapy water down there all day, and it runs right off the top of that slime, never touching what is alive underneath. Peroxide is a different animal. It works by oxidation, which means it attacks that protective layer head-on and breaks it apart. Once the wall comes down, the bacteria have nowhere left to hide. Pour a cup of the 3% down a smelly drain, let it sit a full hour, and you are not masking the odor for the evening. You are taking out the thing that makes it. That is the difference between a smell that is back by tomorrow and one that actually leaves. And it is why, when we get to number 8, this exact property is the reason us tradesmen reach for peroxide before the harsh stuff. But we are getting ahead. There is a bleach question to settle first. Number 5, why it beats bleach for your pipes. I know what a good number of you are thinking right now. If I want to kill bacteria and knock out a smell, why not just reach for bleach? It is cheap, it is under the sink already, and it kills everything. And you are not wrong that it kills things. But let me tell you what bleach does that nobody at the store mentions. First off, if you are on a septic system, bleach is a real problem. Your septic tank runs on living bacteria that break the waste down for you. Pour bleach down there on the regular, and you are killing the very workers your whole system depends on. And a septic backup is a repair that runs into real money. Ask me how I know. Second, bleach and old metal pipes are not friends over the long haul. And if bleach ever meets ammonia from another cleaner down in your pipe, you have made a toxic gas inside your own home. That is a genuine danger, not me being dramatic. Peroxide sidesteps every bit of that. When it is finished working, it breaks down into just two things: water and oxygen. Nothing that poisons your septic tank, nothing that lingers, nothing that turns into a gas that sends you to the emergency room. So when the choice is between a substance that leaves harmful stuff behind and one that turns back into water, I know which one I am pouring into a pipe I have to live with every time. That is not even a close call. Number 6, the toilet tank trick. And this is the one I promised you that most folks never once think to check. Lift the lid off the back of your toilet and look down inside the tank. I mean the tank, the part with the water and the float, not the bowl. Go ahead, I will wait. See any dark streaks in there? Any pink or black gunk creeping around the water line or on the working parts? That is mildew and bacteria. It is extremely common, and most people go their whole lives without ever lifting that lid to look. Now, plenty of folks try to handle this by dropping one of those blue tablets or a bleach puck into the tank. I am going to ask you not to. Those tablets sit in the tank and slowly eat your flapper and your gaskets, the rubber parts that keep the toilet from running on you. I have replaced more flappers wrecked by tank tablets than I could count. You go to solve a stain and you buy yourself a running toilet instead. Peroxide is the gentle way through. Pour about a cup of the 3% into the tank, not the bowl, the tank. Let it sit 20 or 30 minutes, then flush it through a couple of times. It cleans the mildew right off the parts, and because it breaks down into water so fast, it is not sitting in there for weeks chewing on your rubber the way a bleach puck will. Once every month or two is plenty. Between you and me, this little habit keeps the guts of your toilet clean without shortening their life. And that is the trade you actually want. Number 7, freshening up the garbage disposal. If you have got a disposal in your kitchen sink, I would bet money it is one of the smelliest spots in your entire house. That smell you have been blaming on the trash can is very likely rising up out of there. Here is the thing about a disposal. Food does not simply pass through it. Little bits get flung up under the rubber splash guard, that flexible black flap at the top, and they stick to the grinding chamber below, and they rot. It is dark, it is wet, and it is exactly where odor bacteria and biofilm love to move in. Same as we talked about back at number 4. So here is my routine. With the disposal off, and I mean fully off, pour about a cup of the 3% peroxide down into it. Let it sit a few minutes so it can foam up under that splash guard and coat the chamber. Then run cold water and flip the disposal on for a few seconds to rinse the whole works clean. Want to make it even better? Drop a few cut-up lemon or orange peels down there and grind them with the cold water running right after. The peroxide kills whatever was causing the smell, and the citrus leaves it fresh behind. That is a 1-2 punch that costs you next to nothing. And I am going to say this next part plain, because it matters more than any tip on this list. Never, ever put your hand down a disposal. Not to clean it, not to fish out a spoon, not with the switch off, not ever. Use tongs. That is a rule I do not bend for anybody. Number 8. Why the pros reach for it before the harsh chemicals. I told you back at number 4 I would come to this, so here it is. When a tradesman who actually cares about your house shows up to a slow, smelly drain, a lot of us do not lead with the caustic jug. Here is the honest reason why. Those heavy-duty chemical drain openers, the ones that get hot down in the pipe, they work by pure aggression. And that aggression does not know the difference between your clog and your pipe. Use them too often, especially on older pipes or on the rubber seals and plastic fittings under a modern sink, and you can wreck the very plumbing you were trying to clear. I have been called out to fix pipes that a bottle of drain opener quietly ate through from the inside. That is a repair bill that makes the original clog look like nothing. Peroxide is what you reach for first because it is gentle on the house. It cleans, it deodorizes, it breaks down the biofilm, and it does not punish your pipes for the privilege. You save the heavy stuff for a true emergency, and even then you think twice. This right here is the whole spirit of what I do, between you and me. The cheapest, gentlest thing that actually works is almost always the right first move. Not the most expensive, not the most aggressive. The one that solves your problem without creating a bigger one down the line. A $4 bottle over a $100 mistake every time you can manage it. But there is one way to use peroxide wrong, and it is important. So stay right here with me for number 9. Number 9, the one rule that keeps all of this safe, so please do not skip out on me now. Everything I have told you today runs on one single kind of peroxide. The plain 3% bottle from the drugstore, the brown one. That is the concentration made for around the house, and it is the only strength you should ever be pouring down your drains. I want to be clear here, because you can buy stronger peroxide online. The 12% and even the 35% so-called food-grade stuff. That is not for any of this. At those strengths, peroxide can burn your skin and your eyes, and it has to be handled with real care and real gloves. For everything on this list, 3% is your number. Stick to it, and you have got nothing to worry about. Now the mixing rule, the one I hinted at way back at number 2. Do not mix hydrogen peroxide and vinegar together, and especially not down in a closed or trapped pipe. On their own, both are mild and useful. But combine the two and they form something called peracetic acid, which is corrosive and irritating to your skin, your eyes, and your lungs. Out in an open bowl with plenty of air, that is one thing. Poured together into a sealed trap where it cannot breathe, you do not want to be leaning over that drain. So use your peroxide by itself, or with baking soda like we did at number 2, and keep the vinegar for another job on another day. And one more that trips people up. Do not mix peroxide with bleach either. Just keep it simple. One brown bottle doing one honest job at a time. Follow that, and this is about as safe as home repair ever gets. That is the 9. If any of it saved you a call to a plumber, it did its job. Subscribe to the Vintage Pipefitter, and I will keep bringing you one real repair every week. The money-saving fixes that took me 30 years on the tools to learn. Thanks for spending the time with me. Now stick around, because I saved you a good one. Here is the one I held back, and it is the reason your peroxide might not be working half as well as it should. That bottle comes in brown for a reason. Light and heat break peroxide down into plain water over time, which is exactly why you never see it sold in a clear bottle. So 2 things. First, keep it in its own original brown bottle in a cool cabinet with the cap screwed on tight. Do not go pouring it into some pretty clear jar on the counter, because you will be watering it down without knowing it. Second, before you count on it for any job on this list, do a quick test. Pour a little splash into the sink. If it fizzes and foams up, it is still good and strong. If it just sits there flat and quiet, it has turned to water, and it is time for a fresh $3 bottle. A tired old bottle of dead peroxide is the number